a corporate registered agent service is because by doing that, you are making sure you're complying with the legal requirements in your state, and which is that you need to have a place where you can accept legal notices, subpoenas, lawsuits, documents, different things like that. You need to be able to accept those during normal business hours, 5 days a week. During so 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday are the typical hours. And so to do that, you have to have a virtual registered agent. Sorry, there's a little bit of strange noise coming from somewhere. I think somebody's moving a chair in another room. Anyway, if you list yourself as a registered agent and you're not available, so if you're not at your home to receive those documents, then you're basically running afoul of the legal requirements for that. And I will say, I'm going to go ahead and apologize because I don't know. Hopefully you can hear me. Please, somebody post in the comments that you can hear me. I think the internet service is fairly spotty here, and so there might be a little bit of lag. There might be some breakup in the audio or the video here. And let's see, I've got a comment from Cece. Watching you from California. Okay, thank you, Cece. So evidently people can hear me. Hopefully they can hear me. All right, let's go to the next question I've got. And that is, all right, what about a DBA? Do I need one for my business? This comes from Chris J.8721. And by the way, these are all questions. I went through all the comments on my channel for about the past month or so. And so these are all recent comments that came across on the channel. Do I need one for my business? So that really depends. If you are doing business, if you set up an LLC and your LLC is the same name that you use for the front-facing, public-facing version of your business, then probably not. So if you set up, like for my instance, if I was the Hart Law Firm, which I am the Hart Law Firm, that's my law firm's name, and CC says, I can hear you fine, thank you so much, and I want to do business as the Hart Law Firm, then I don't need a DBA. However, as some of you may know, I also have a separate brand that I run my trademark business through. It's Hawthorn Law, and I do have a DBA set up with, it's called a reserved name here in North Carolina. Well, I'm not in North Carolina, but when I am in North Carolina, that's what it's called. And so I do have a reserved name set up for that. So if you set up your business as, Awesome LLC, and then you're running your business as, Bill's Awesome Services, then that is a different name. You would want to set up a DBA for that. So, or if you're running your business as a sole proprietor and you actually have a separate business from your personal name that you're running your business as, then you want to make sure you set up a DBA for that in your state. And that's a fairly simple process for most states. I want to say Kansas is the only state that does not allow DBAs for some reason. I think you can reserve a name for a few months if that's something you want to use for an LLC, but then you kind of have to put up or shut up is, I think, the way that works. I'm not licensed in Kansas. And by the way, anything I mention here today, this is not legal advice. This is just me on vacation, drinking a beer and answering questions that I see on my YouTube channel. So this is not by any stretch legal advice. I'm not gathering any additional information other than the questions that I'm seeing from you. So just be aware of that. Okay, let's go to the next question, and it is from Martina Choi, 7843. And she says, what? It takes 12 to 18 months to get a trademark? I thought it was just a couple of weeks. Well, Martina, that is incorrect. I apologize. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And let me just show you if I can pull this up. Let's see. Let's see if I'm able to do this. I should be able to switch here. Okay, yeah. I did that. So this is the USPTO website, and you can see right now they are currently reviewing applications filed between September 13th, 2022 and September 27th, 2022. So if my math is correct, that's September to October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. We are now July 12th. So that is 10 months that it's been that they're starting to look at applications that were filed 10 months ago. So there's no way you're getting that trademark in a couple weeks, and chances are it's going to take 12 to 18 months. That's the timeline I say. I would say it's actually going to probably take longer than that. I think that Martina is responding to a video I did at some point, and I'm just going to make this a little bigger so I can see what's going on. I think I was in preview mode, but hold on a sec. Now I can't see myself. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting used to this software again. Anyway, yeah, so it is taking, I would say, 14, 15 months minimum, up to 18 months to 20 or maybe even 2 years now at this point. And the process, the reason why it takes so long is because the examining attorney that gets assigned to your file has to look through your application. They've got to make sure it's legally sufficient. If there's problems, which there are in about 50 to 60% of the cases, then they will issue what's called an office action that you have to respond to. And then once you resolve all those, and there could be more than one, you have to go through a publication period, and that takes 3 to 4 months. And so, I mean, the whole thing, it's a legal process for sure. It's not just a matter of filling out an application, sending it to some government office, and then they give you your trademark. No, it doesn't work like that. There is a legal process involved, and so it does take some time, and people that think they can DIY it, I do not recommend you DIY it, although I do have a course on how to get a trademark if you join my monthly membership program. There's again a link down in the description below to that. So there you go, Martina. I am so sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It does take longer than that. So let's see, what's the next question we've got here? LLC name. Okay, this is small. I'm going to have to zoom this in to see what is written here. Hold on a second. I'm on my laptop today as opposed to my normal, what do you call it, monitor that I typically use. So let's see. This is from Heuristic Algorithm 8465. I'm forming an LLC for online businesses, so my LLC name doesn't have to be the same as my actual online business. That's true, and if you go back and listen to what I talked about a few minutes ago, I talked about DBAs and how if that's the case, if your LLC name is not the same as your actual business name, then you can use a DBA. I'm trying to think of a name for my LLC. What is the best tool to check for LLC name trademark infringements? So you can go directly to the USPTO website and do a search there, and I've done another, and if you look at my video that I posted last week, how to DIY your trademark, I went in depth, well, I mean relatively in depth, as much as you can in a 20-minute video or so, about how exactly you can go ahead and do a search to see if anyone else is using your name. So check that out. It says, I'm on the U.S. federal government trademark site checking. And how different does your name have to be from existing LLCs to avoid trademark infringement suits? Thanks. It's a great question, really. I mean, you're really covering a lot of topics here. So, yes, you have to understand, number one, the standard is not exact match. So you've already kind of alluded to that in your question, which is really great because a lot of people completely miss that. They think it has to be an exact match, and if you add like a word or a modifier to the beginning or the end of the name, that's going to be sufficient to make your name unique, and that is not necessarily the case. So the standard is called likelihood of confusion, and what you're looking for is, number one, are the names similar in sight, sound, and appearance? And then also, you have to look at the goods and services that are listed under an existing trademark that might be confusingly similar to yours, and are the goods related? So if the goods are related and the name is related, it's a no-go. But if the goods are different and the name is related, then you still might be able to use that name. There's still, I hesitate to say you absolutely can, because there could be situations where you can't, but that's number one. And if the name is not related but the goods are related, which happens obviously all the time, then obviously you probably should still be able to use that name. Now, this is really important because a lot of people mess this up, and one of the most common denials for trademark applications is that likelihood of confusion denial, which means that there's another name out there that is likely to be confused with yours, and they're selling related goods or services. Now, what I tell people, and I'm actually in the process of writing a book on trademarks right now that's going to be helpful for all entrepreneurs out there that are trying to make sure they can protect their brand. What you need to know is if you see a name, if you're looking up to see if there's anything else that's sufficiently related to yours, and you find a name that you think might be related to yours, I want you to take a minute and put yourself into the position of that person that already has a trademark. And if you were them and they saw your application, would you be upset? And if that's the case, then chances are you have a name that's likely to be confused with that other name. So, and then along those lines, I'm going to go ahead and answer this question because it just came in. Hold on a second. This is from Quell. I thought I could put this. Hold on a second. I thought I could put your. Oh, add to broadcast. There you go. That's really big. Okay. Let me just make that a little smaller. Can we use the business name? I'm sorry. Make this a little smaller here. Is that better? That's better. Okay. Can we use the business name? I can't read it. Can we use the business name while we waited for the process of trademark to finalize? What count is when you apply, or when is finalized the process to get the trademark? I'm not sure what you mean at the back, but on the front end of your question there, Quell, yes, you can and you should. Trademark applications are tied to use in commerce, so if you're not using the trademark in commerce, you're not actually going to be able to register your trademark. You can get what's called a notice of allowance, which is basically where the trademark office says, yes, we will go ahead and register this name once you are using it in commerce and you submit evidence of that to us. But you cannot actually register a trademark until you're using it in commerce. So yes, you can and you should be using your name before, well, as soon as possible, because priority for trademark applications comes in terms of how the first use in commerce. So if you're using your name before somebody else, then you're going to have priority with the trademark application process. All right, hopefully that answers your question, Quell. Let's see, where were we at here? Did we do this one? Yes, we did that one. We're on this one. All right, Mr. Fred's DIY. Hey, Jim, should in quotation marks, folks begin selling merchandise with their logo brand before it is trademarked? How would this impact the trademark application? Okay, and I think so Quell, you were like reading our minds. That was the absolute next question. So yes, we already talked about that. You should start using your trademark as soon as possible. But I do recommend getting that trademark application filed, because if you start using the name, you don't have your trademark application filed, you get some success around your name, and you start to become famous, maybe you develop a big following on social media, then you run the risk that somebody could go and steal your name from you. Also, you run the risk that you could be accidentally infringing on somebody else. So you want to make sure you get that trademark registered or get the application filed. Okay. Let's switch over to LLCs here. If you're trying every step, if you're trying every way to keep separate from the LLC, does it matter whether the business address is a P.O. box or a personal address? Is it as important as using a tax ID instead of a social security number? Well, obviously you understand at 7 deal 4 that it's important to use an EIN number for your business, even if you are a sole proprietor. That's very important. Should you use a P.O. box or personal address? So I haven't really talked about this. So we talked a little bit about registered agents earlier in the video. But when it comes to your business address, you can use your personal address if you'd like. And I recommend not using a personal address for a couple reasons. Number one, for privacy reasons, to keep your personal address off the Secretary of State's website. I think that's a big reason to not use your personal address. And another reason is you're going to get a lot of spam and junk mail to that address, and it's easier to filter that out if you use a virtual address. Can you use a P.O. box? I think most states do allow you to use a P.O. box for the business address. You cannot use a P.O. box for the registered agent address, which is again why I recommend using a corporate registered agent. Like I said, we talked about that. That was the first question we answered on the video today. My personal feeling is if you want to use a P.O. box, that's fine. So when you start, as long as it's okay in your state, and you're going to need to check the rules in your state to see if that's okay. Now, when it comes to P.O. box versus virtual address, there's going to be a cost difference. Although I did talk to a client recently who tried to set up a P.O. box, and she said it was pretty expensive actually. And now that just could be where she lives. Because P.O. boxes are related to how many P.O. boxes are available. There's only so many P.O. boxes in the post office where you live. So if you're looking to use a P.O. box, then you're going to need to go to your post office and see what the fees are. With a P.O. box, you have to go to the post office to get your mail. So if you're going to be traveling a lot, or if you work remotely and like if you're a travel blogger and you go all over the world, or if you are moving from state to state or country to country, or doing whatever it is you're doing while still running your business from the United States, obviously a P.O. box or your personal address is not going to work. There is a solution that I do recommend. It's the same solution that I use, keeping in mind I work remotely from Portugal. And so I have a service that I use that gets all my mail in North Carolina. They scan it in, they email it to me. It's available through an app on my phone, and I really like it. And so there is, if you go to hawthornlaw.net/virtual, I think is the address, and there should be a link down below. You can go ahead and sign up with that service. It's the same service that I use. It's through Earth Class Mile. I love them. Haven't had any issues. There is a cost on a monthly basis, but it works great. And as I'm juggling the table here, anyway, I really like them. Okay, I'm going to take a little sip. And let's go to the next question. Okay. From Ignacio Reyes. I got it. Ignacio Reyes. I think that's the name. 1557. Is it possible to file for the trademark and then also start making my LLC? Okay, this is a great question. I'm so glad you asked that, Ignacio. So here's how that works. And I answer this question for a lot of clients during our consult calls when we're talking about, should you set up your LLC before we file for the trademark, or should you wait? And here is my answer to that question. It depends. All right, great lawyer. You go to law school, that's what they teach you. They teach you just tell people it depends, and that's pretty much going to answer all the questions. No, seriously though. So it does depend. It depends if you can afford to do the LLC at the same time that you file your trademark application. I highly recommend you do that. Why is it? Well, excuse me. It is because if you wait, so if you file your LLC or your trademark as a sole proprietor, which is totally fine, you can do that. Then at some point, once you do register your LLC, you will have to sorry, I lost my train of thought. When comments come in, it makes a little noise. Sometimes I lose my train of thought. Coyle says, Portugal, obrigado, and tal. Yes, nada. So he just said, thank you also. So anyway, with the trademark, and I apologize, I've been kind of had a little gas coming up, so whatever. Anyway, if you can afford to do them both at the same time, I recommend you do them both at the same time. If you cannot afford to do both at the same time, you can only afford to do one or the other, I recommend you can move forward with the trademark and you file it as a sole proprietor or a partnership if you're in partnership with somebody else. And then once you do file your LLC, which I highly recommend you do as quickly as possible, then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to file an assignment with your trademark application. So if you hire a lawyer to help you with your trademark, which I also recommend, then we would need to draft and file an assignment that gets filed and recorded with the trademark office that basically assigns the rights in your trademark to the LLC. Now, it's important here that you understand this, because this is a, and I've had even lawyers hop on the channel and say that I was wrong on this, and I know for a fact I'm not wrong on this, because it happened to us recently, and I'm trying to remember the situation. I had a client who, I can't remember what happened exactly. Basically, the client came to me after they had filed their own trademark, and they messed up the application. They filed the LLC was incorrect on their initial application. It wasn't the LLC that actually was in existence, and they wanted to know if they could do an assignment. And there's other ways to do it. You can do what's called basically an amendment to your application because there was some small error. So if you mistype your LLC on the application, you can file an amendment. And if it's just a minor mistake, that's fine. But if it's like a major mistake, you had the wrong owner, and the owner existed at the time you filed the application, you can't do an assignment for that. So if you wanted to, if the original owner of the trademark was you as the sole proprietor, but you actually owned an LLC and that should have been listed as the proper owner, then you can't do an assignment anymore because the application is void from the very start, because you misstated the owner. There was another owner in existence and you misstated the owner, so you can't do an assignment at that point. So, but if you file the LLC later, you can list yourself as a sole proprietor as the owner of the trademark, and then you can do the assignment later. So it's complicated. If you run into that situation, I do recommend you contact a lawyer for some assistance. Obviously, that's something I can help with, so in response to your question, Ignacio, is it possible to file for the trademark and then also start making my LLC? Yes, you can, but if you can do them both at the same time, that's better, and then make sure you list the LLC as the owner of the trademark before you file the trademark application. I'm working with a client right now where that's exactly what we did. She had us do both, and I've got the trademark application ready to go, but I'm holding off on having her sign it and then submitting it until after we get the paperwork from the state for her LLC, because otherwise, like I said, we run into these same problems. All right, so I still have some questions here. Let's see. Hello, Jim. Someone recommended using the LLC for write-offs, and the way he represented it to me sounded very good for tax purposes. Is this wrong? Well, I don't know what the person recommended. So, and this is from the great Chancellor. I'm starting an online business, and I thought maybe that would have helped me with initial startup costs, but then it sounds like more of a headache, and if I don't make the revenue I need, it would probably end up being for nothing perhaps. At what point would you suggest creating one, and could I do the write-offs without an LLC? So yes, you can. The LLC provides one significant tax benefit, and that is that when you file your LLC, you can elect to be taxed as an S corporation. That's the only benefit that you get from having an LLC versus operating your business as a sole proprietorship. I mean, other than the whole limited liability thing, right? But in terms of tax benefits, that's the major benefit that you're going to get from having the LLC. So you can, if you have a sole proprietorship and you're just getting started, you can set it up. You can set up the LLC later. I've done an entire video, and I'm kind of going to direct you, the great Chancellor, to that video on why I did one video that talks about why I think you should start your business without an LLC. I did another video about a year or so later where I talked about why I think that I was actually wrong when I did the first video. And so I get all these people that comment on the first video talking about why you should not start an LLC right away, who say, well, I think this is bad advice, and then, well, lo and behold, I actually reversed my own opinion on that, and I did another video talking about why I think it's important that you get your LLC started at the beginning. And I'm not going to talk about all the reasons why, but I did do another video, and I'll try and link to that in the description after we get off this live video today. All right. So I do recommend getting your LLC in place as soon as possible. And one of the main reasons is it's just not that expensive. I mean, other than paying the filing fees, it's a lot more legwork, and it just is not a huge deal. And if you want to hire a lawyer to do it or a service, there's various options for that. And I've talked about that in other videos. But yeah, I would say get your LLC in place right away. Okay, let's see. what about from at Get Those Points, what about the initial funding of the account coming from a personal account? I mean, that's fine. I mean, where else are you going to get the money from? I assume that the money that you're going to fund your LLC with is going to come with your personal account. The only other place where you could fund your LLC from is if you're already starting to develop revenue and then you switch over to the LLC, then the funding will come from the revenue of the business. But other than that, you can take money from your personal account, and we call that typically an owner contribution, or it could also be a loan to the business. You want to talk to your tax professional about how you want to set that up, but yes, that's absolutely possible. Let's see, LLC Nevada. Okay, so I actually have two questions that are very, very similar. So the first is from Chris Weiser. He says, hi, thanks for the videos. Channel is great. I'm trying to find a video to tell me if I need an LLC, which I think I do not need, or what kind of structure should I use. Is there any benefit in opening an LLC or another type in Nevada if I live in California and provide online services? So, and this is very similar to this other question I found on the channel. It says, I'm a California resident, and this is from Seth Smith, 3861. I'm a California resident in the process of building an online business. I have absolutely zero intention of staying in California for very long at all. Do you think it will simplify things by just moving to Nevada first before setting up any business structure? So these are kind of related, but not exactly the same. Let's take Chris's question first. I mean, I would say for 99% of cases, an LLC is going to be fine unless you're building a business where you're seeking funding from angel investors or something like that, or maybe you're in an incubator where you're going to be getting investment at the end of the program. Then I would say, and in those cases, you may want to set up a corporation so that you can issue shares. But for most people, I would say an LLC is going to be fine. It's easy to manage. They're simple to set up. You can elect how you want to be taxed. There's a whole bunch of benefits. You get all that. You get all the limited liability benefits that come from that. So if you live, but in terms of setting it up in Nevada, if you live in California, I would not recommend that. I recommend for almost every single client, except for clients that have real estate in other states, that you want to set up your LLC in the state where you live. So if you live in California, you need to set up in California. And I actually, now big disclaimer here, I'm not a California lawyer. This is not California legal advice, but I believe, and you can Google this, I believe there is a substantial penalty if the state of California figures out that you're running a business from Nevada or any other state, even though you live and operate the business in California. And you can say, listen, I'm providing online services, I'm not actually doing business in California, but the fact that you live in California, you pay taxes in California, your car is probably registered in California, you've got a driver's license, you're registered to vote, you're a California resident. And so in those situations, you are doing business in California just by fact that you are a California resident. So if you start your LLC somewhere else, even though you're living and working in California, then you could be on the hook for a financial penalty that comes from the state if and when, I think it's a matter of when, not if, they find out that you're running a business from someplace else, because when you file your tax return, you're going to have to disclose that income from the Nevada LLC, and that's going to be kind of a red flag to the state taxing authorities. So again, not a licensed California attorney, but I am aware that there is a penalty, there's a statutory penalty, and it's several $1,000s, I believe, if you are operating your business illegally from that's in Nevada, even though you're running the business from California. So I do not recommend you do that. Now, in terms of Seth's question here, I am a California, hold on a second. All right, I'm a California resident in the process of building an online business. Zero intention of staying in California for very long at all. Do you think it will simplify things by just moving to Nevada first before setting up any business structures? Well, I mean, that really depends. I mean, how long are you going to be in California before you move to Nevada? And if you are only planning on being in California for a short period, and you're kind of holding off on setting up your business until you move to Nevada, then yeah, you can probably wait. But if you think you're going to be in California for another year or so and you want to get started on your business, I would just set it up in California, and then when you move to Nevada, you can go ahead and file your business in Nevada at that point, and then just transfer it over. And I don't know, there's several ways to transfer a business. One of the ways is through what's called domestication, which is basically where you file articles of domestication in the state where you're moving to, and then you dissolve your business in the state where you currently live. But you have to have a domestication statute in both states. I do not know if either one of those states has a domestication statute in it. But that's one option. Or you just set up a new LLC in Nevada and shut down the business in California. The big problem is if you do it that way as opposed to using domestication is since it's a new LLC in a new state, you have to get a new EIN number. You've got to get, you got new bank accounts, all those type of things, which can be a huge pain. So you do want to make sure that you do that the right way, and I would talk to a lawyer before you embark on this because you don't want to make any mistakes along the way. All right, let's see. I've got a comment from Jose who says, thank you for all your info. I've started a very small catering service and plan on starting an LLC. However, I'm initiating a YouTube channel which I will be critiquing establishments. Oh, that sounds like a good idea for a business, actually. Pretty cool. So listen, we're at the top of the hour, and I wanted to make sure I got through all these questions. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you got questions, leave them in the comments, and if you like the format of this video, I plan on doing more of these. I know I've said that before in the past. It's harder because I live in Portugal, so with the time change and everything, making the timing work of a live video is a little bit more difficult because it's really late at night for me, even though it's earlier in the day for a lot of people. But since I'm on East Coast time right now, this is perfect time for a lot of people. So anyway, have a great day, folks. I'm going to finish off my beer, and I'm going to go get some lunch and enjoy the rest of my day here in Grenada. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Take care.